and His people can do. We gather here 3 times a week. 3 times. So that we're supposed to be 3 times. At least we supplement it with our Bible studies and other gatherings. So that we can be stronger in accomplishing God's plan. God's plan. So what are these feasts, by the way? Well, the one is the feast of the Passover. What is this feast? Why is this so important? Well, this is the feast that they are supposed to celebrate in commemoration or in remembrance of what God did when God set them free from the slavery of Egypt. You see, it says here in verse 1, observe the month of Abib, what? Celebrate the Passover to the Lord your God. The Lord your God brought you out of Egypt by night. It says in verse 3 towards the end, so that you may remember all the days of your life, the day when you came out of the land of Egypt. You see, Egypt is the picture of the world that is dominated by Satan. The Pharaoh represents the devil, or the picture or the type of the devil, and it's also a reality, who wants to oppress and enslave the people of God. Moses is the picture of Jesus Christ, God's man, God's servant, who will fulfill God's purpose of setting His people free. He was the chosen one, Moses, even from his birth. And Jesus was the chosen one. Slavery and suffering is the result of man's sin against God. And the feast of the Passover signifies what the Bible says regarding the experience of His people in Egypt. They were there without any hope of getting out of the clutches of Pharaoh. And then true with you and I. We are in the clutches of sin. There's nothing that will enable you to escape sin. The power of sin. And Satan is behind all these things that the evil is going on. There's no escape. Oh, but then God, one day, He sent a messenger by the name of Moses. He's a picture of Christ. To let God's people go. He went there in obedience to God. And he has that stake with the power of God. And the night when they were to leave Egypt, God says, I'm going to send the angel of death this coming night. Every firstborn will die. Except for those who would follow what God says. What did God say? Well, you have to kill a lamb, a young lamb, and get the blood and put it on your doorpost so that when the angel of death passed through the town or the city of Egypt, and if he sees the blood on the door, he will just pass over that house. Go to the next one. And that's why it's the feast of the Passover, where God, His angel of death, will not harm the people of God. By what way? Just by looking at the blood. That points to the blood of Jesus on the cross. That only the blood that can save you from sure death. That will take you to hell forever. And that's the picture. And God says, I want you to remember that every year. I want you to celebrate. That's why this is a feast. What is the characterization of feast? A feast is always a happy, joyous celebration. And God said, I want you to celebrate with much joy that day that I delivered you from the clutches of Pharaoh and slavery and everything. And that's what we're also here. We come here on Sunday to do what? Well, we're here to celebrate, to rejoice, even in this Thanksgiving. To rejoice on what? The salvation that God brought us. Where? There at the cross. Where the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. He came to set us free. That's what Jesus says. When the Son sets you free, you shall be free indeed. That's what happened to them in the land of Egypt. That was just a picture of that that Passover was fulfilled by the Lord Jesus Christ. That's why He was the Passover lamb. And that's why He was crucified on what? On a Passover. Because He was the Passover. Do you have a Passover in your life? When the angel of death comes to you, you think you will be spared. There's no religion that you can hide from. There's no work that you can pile in front of it. No. There's only the blood that can save you from sure death. And that is the blood that Jesus shed on the cross. He is the Passover Lamb. And God says, I want you to remember that. And on that day, I want all the fighting men to appear. Why? Because we have battles to fight. The Passover signifies what? The power of God to save. See, they can never be saved from Pharaoh's power. Pharaoh represents the most powerful nation on earth at that time. There is no way that this bunch of slaves can get out from him. That the Passover signifies what? The power of God. There's nothing that can prevent God from saving you from your sin. And God did it all by Himself. All that Moses had to do is obey and trust what God says. That's all. In fact, Moses grew up in Pharaoh's palace. He was trained to be heir to the throne. He knew the power of the Egyptian army. That's why he's scared to go back there, hiding there behind the desert. And God told him, what's that in your hand? Well, a staff. Okay, we'll use the staff. You know the staff, right? Able to what? Split. That's what he used. He pointed the stick to the ocean and split it. That staff has power. Becomes a snake. Because it's God who is working behind the scene. Do you know that the reason why you're here today? Because God is working behind the scene in your life. Amen. Yes. You know why this church is still here? Even though there's not that many of us? Because it's still God that keeps us going. Right. See, God can do it all. He has the power to make it happen. And God doesn't need any help from anyone. He doesn't need any help. He has an angel. That's why, when he was arrested, Peter, God is trying to save Jesus, took his sword and tried to fight with the Roman cohort. And he said, put it down, put it away. I can call my father's legions. That's a lot of them. In fact, he need only one of them. He said, if I want to, I can call my father's legions. You see, God doesn't really need you. Doesn't need me. He can do it all by Himself. Oh, but then He wants to extend to you the invitation to be His partner. Would you like to be partner with God? I'm always looking for, I want that guy to be my partner, that partner. And then they just a flop. They just talk too much, no action. You know that there are people in church like that too? I used to be one. I don't talk too much because I'm very quiet, but still no action. I'm quiet and still no action. Others, they are loud but no action. I'd like to see those who are loud and loud in action. Where do you think you are? You see, God doesn't need anyone. He can do it all by Himself. He sends you an invitation to be partners with Him in building His kingdom. That's what we're celebrating this coming Thanksgiving Day. The feast of Passover signifies the salvation of God that only God can save. And then we have to hurry up here. The feast of the Pentecost, which is also known as the Feast of Weeks. This is what we call the Feast of Harvest. We just had one harvest celebration. The Feast of Harvest. That's 50 days after the Passover. That's why Pentecost, 50 days. And this is the feast that signifies God's faithfulness. Do you know that God is faithful? Yes. In fact, the Bible says, He is faithful even though we are unfaithful. I'm so unfaithful. I don't know about you. My wife knows it. But I'm glad that God is always faithful to me. Amen. Do you have a boyfriend, a girlfriend? Yeah. Are you sure they're faithful to you? Do you have a friend? some friends are not faithful too. I'm not going to ask about the husband and wife, because that's another matter. But you see, God is always faithful. You can always depend on Him. All the promises He made. You see, God promised to bless them with what? A fruitful land. Isn't that what it says? I'll give you the land flowing with milk and honey. He promised them a fruitful land. He promised to sustain them. You won't go hungry in that land. He promised to give them a what? Bountiful harvest. He said, I will send the rain in its proper time. I will drive away the locusts. I will not allow mildew to ruin your crops. See, God promises all of that. And the harvest reminds them that God has fulfilled all those promises. That's why God said, I want you to celebrate it with much rejoicing. Your daughter, your son, your servant, your son, everybody, even the strangers are mentioned there. The orphans, the widows, everybody. This is for everybody to rejoice. Like the fiesta in the barrio. It's for everybody. There's always something for everyone. God does not exclude anybody. And the harvest, the Feast of Pentecost reminds them of the faithfulness of God. That's why, again, I want all the fighting men to show up. Because I've got a job for them to do. In return, at least, for the faithfulness of God. The Feast of Passover signifies that you can depend and trust in God. How many of you doubt God sometimes? How many of you get tired of waiting for God sometimes? Man, it's so long. I really need it now. I somehow still don't answer my prayer. Oh, but the Feast of the Harvest remind you, you can depend on Him. You can trust in His Word. I heard a story the other day about this particular Filipino dentist. Oh, you know, dentists make a lot of money. Yeah. And he was able to buy several homes. He got a clinic with clientele. Good job. And then the market collapsed. He lost several of his homes. Oh, not only that, he got sick of cancer. And now he lost practically almost everything that he's built over the years. Now he cannot, being sick of cancer, he cannot pull teeth anymore. He cannot do the filling. Who's going to show up in your clinic if you can't do that? He cannot produce money, income anymore. His health is gone. Do you know that your health can disappear tomorrow? Anything can happen to you. And all that you have labored for, gone with the wind. I was just listening to the story. He passed away. Now the wife is left behind. And she has problem how to keep up with the mortgage and things like that. No more business. You see, the harvest remind them that all that they have came from God. Do you know that your health came from God? Yes. The only reason why you make money right now is because God sustained you. Yes. The celebration of the harvest reminds them that everything that they enjoy is all because of the favor of God. God can take it away anytime. I mean, instantly. He can send the marauding Assyrians and destroy their cities to the ground if He wants. The only thing that prevents Him is the hand of God. Yeah. And then, of course, lastly, the Feast of Booths. You shall celebrate the Feast of Booths. Oh, what is the Feast of Booths? What is a booth anyway? Well, we have they have a feast here in Pittsburgh. You can buy a booth for what? $200-300. So you can sell your. We do that sometimes, so we can distribute tracts. There's so many people in this gathering, right? So some churches, let's put a booth there so that we can, distribute tracts. That's one way you can, spread the gospel. So you pay $300 for a booth. So what is the Feast of Booths? Well, they are on the journey to the promised land. They live in, you can't build a permanent house in the desert and wonder for. They build tents. That's what they have. And in that 40 years of wandering, God did not expose them to the elements and they get sick and die. No, they were pretty healthy. And God told them that on the Feast of Booths, they are to leave their home. Oh, that's pretty hard for some people nowadays to leave their home. And then they will build like a shack. It's a very small one, and they're all going to live there for the duration of the Feast of Booths. And the purpose is that to remind them, the Feast of Booths is to remind them that they are on the journey in this world. This is not their permanent home. Some people act like, oh, this is it. Everything they plan, they think, they dream, it's all tied to this world. That's not what it is if you're a child of God. You are in a journey with God. This place is not your home. That's why God reminds you every year you need to live in that little shack. Live your nice home. You experience that you're not here permanently. That's one reason why we come to church. You need to be reminded that we're just here temporarily. You are on a journey with God. How are you going to be journeying with God? That means God doesn't want you to get ahead of Him. And God doesn't want you to be behind, way behind. He wants you to be, if you are in journey with God, you want to be walking in step with God. Are you walking in step with God now? Or are you so behind God can't see you anymore? Well, God, there's no place on earth God cannot see you in the universe. But sometimes the leaders can't see who's following them. They can. They're not around. Leaders need them, no followers. They teach us in a seminary, in the Bible school, you better be careful when you're pastor there because you plan a program, blah, 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 and when you turn around, nobody following you. You know that happens a lot. That's why a lot of pastors would like to quit. Pastor Kalika, they said, the founder of Rescue Tribe, he has a lot of reason to quit. I admire that. Maybe someday I'll preach more about his life. You see, the Feast of Booths remind them that they are on a journey with God, that they must have time to be with God. They need to know whether we're at step with God or behind God. There's some people that are so ahead of God. How do you know you're ahead of God? You see, that calls for discernment. You know what discernment is? That means you can feel and you can sense that something is going on around you or nothing is going on around you. You can discern. Me, I don't have to feel it. I can see everybody from the pulpit, whether they're listening or not, or they're sleeping or not. Sometimes those asleep, I can see. It doesn't require discernment anymore. All I have to do is open my eyes. I can see it. But there are things that you have to be discerning. You have to be discerning. Because somebody may be next to you, but don't hear what you're talking. Some people, blah, 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 blah. Do you know what I said? Oh, what did you say? Well, see, you have to be discerning. You should have quit long time ago because you discern. They're not listening. That's why I told my wife when we're driving, and she's next to me, I stopped talking. You know why? Because she's falling asleep already. I have to be discerning because I don't want to be talking, nobody's listening. So, you have to be discerning whether God is still with you or not. Maybe, how come I can't sense God? Well, maybe you're so ahead of Him. Or maybe you're so behind Him. And if you're a leader, you better be discerning. That's why in this church, I feel like we are rebuilding the foundation of the church. I feel like there's so much to lay on the groundwork before we can begin to build something up. That's why, while we got a lot of good ideas, do this, I don't think people are ready to do that. Because I can discern these people are not in a position to commit themselves on that idea. January, I have to suggest something. And I can discern, you all can do it. That's why I told my wife, this is going to be my centerpiece for New Year's message. But you have to be discerning. And the Feast of Booths reminds them that they are in the journey with God. And that's why sometimes God sent them this plague over there, Luke was over there. Why? They could not discern that God is no longer in step with them. God has to send in Assyrians to capture their cities before they realize, oh, where's God now? God has abandoned you a long time ago, man. He's not with you anymore. You see, they're not journeying with God. The Feast of Booths is, hey, and the Feast of Booths signifies that your journey is just temporary. You know that your journey in this earth is just temporary. It can be over soon. Somebody says, well, let's do it, the celebration. We'll do it again 5 years from now. Oh, 5 years from now, how would I do it? But the pastor who organized it, I hope Jesus will come before 5 years. Because then it was so hard to organize such a gathering. I hope Jesus will come before 5 years so I don't have to repeat this again. But you see, because this journey, the Feast of Booths remind them that, hey, are you having a hard time in this world? Yeah, but that's only temporary. Are you having so much good time on this earth? Yeah, but that's also temporary. It can be over soon. So, if you're having a hard time, the joy is, oh, it's just temporary. It can be over soon. If you are on the partying side, oh, you better watch out. That's only temporary. Better watch out. The Feast of Booths reminds them of that. The Feast of Booths, alright? The Feast of Booths reminded them, this world is not my home. That's right. That's why God said, I want them to do that every year. So they remember this world is not their home. I'm still going to plan to buy a house anyway. But you see, that's how. In other words, if this world is not your home, two things comes to mind. Invest in the kingdom of God. Are you investing in the kingdom of God? I like to see Kuya here, sitting there. You know that he's a smart guy. He painted something like Amor Solo. You don't know Amor Solo? Picasso. Nice painter. Oh, but those paintings hang on the wall of his house. But that painting is not forever. Should enjoy them now. You should go see it and enjoy it now. Go visit and bring some, something to snack on. Enjoy. This world is not your home. That means if this world is not your home, you need to what? Be wise with the use of your time.
Amen.
Where do you use your time? That means you should be wise to where to spend your money. Because this world is not your home. That's why we give you an opportunity every Sunday to put it to the wise. Put more money here. Why? This world is not your home. The only ones that you can take with you are what you put here. Everything else be gone. This world is not your home. That means, where do you spend your energy? Because everything you spend your energy on, oh, they're going to be gone with the wind. Oh, but this world is not your home. Your world is heaven. Everything you do for God, even a cup of cold water, the Bible says, is recorded for you. Where? In your real home. Are you going there?
Yep.
You see, you have to ask that yourself. And you need to tell somebody next to you, is this your home?
Is this your home?
Or behind you? Or in front of you? Why? Because some people maybe they know that this place is not their home. The Feast of Booths remind that. Invest in the kingdom. And lastly, the Feast of Booths reminds them of what? Ooh, that we are aiming for the promised land. That's why they are to be reminded. If you are a child of God, you are on your way to the promised land. Make no mistake about it. You will be there if you are a child of God. The only question that remains is, what is it that's waiting for you in the promised land? That's why God says, I want all the fighting men. Show up every year to remind you. You know that you and I are easy to forget. That's why even Connie Francis wrote a song, Am I that easy to forget? and God says that to His people. Am I that easy to forget? I bless you every day. I sustain you. How can you miss Sunday? Oh, but you see, they forgot all those 3 feasts that God saved them. Oh, that God fulfilled His promises to them. Oh, that God has prepared a place eternal forever for them. I want to. Father, Lord, we just thank you that we are reminded through this feast so that we don't have to check the calendar. We don't have to find out what time of the year now. It's something that everyone remembers. It's a feast day. And this Thanksgiving Day, Lord, there's so much celebration, so much gathering. But lest we forget that everything is just temporary. The only thing that lasts are those that belongs to God. And we are His people, the flock of His pasture. Bless your people, we pray in Jesus' name.